there are increased risks when you get pregnant after 35. Like, that is a simple biological truth that we cannot argue.
Now, that's not to say that you can't naturally get pregnant at 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, but the chances and the ease of which that happens starts to decline as we get older. If you are in your early 30s, approaching your middle 30s, freezing your eggs at that point is almost like a security blanket. I think if you have the opportunity and the means to do so, I think it's a good idea. But I understand that it's also, you have to be vocal about what you want in your life and what you want that job to be, so that people kind of are aware that you want this job, so that if the opening becomes available, you're given consideration. And I always think that showing up and doing kind of those extra projects or volunteering for those extra assignments in the beginning puts you on people's radar.
Yeah, and I think that's really great advice, because people can't promote you if they don't know that you were in the running for that position. What is the biggest lesson you have learned in the past 5 years?
Oh man, geez, that's a deep one.
Welcome back to Scrubs to Stilettos with me, Dr. Tiffany Moon.
And me, Dr. Nicole Martin.
Today's episode is all about you guys, the listeners and our followers, because we asked you guys to ask us anything, and you sure did. You asked us about your relationships, your careers, parenting, more housewives tea, and we are here to give the people what they want.
I was so shocked by how many questions we got. We could not get through them in 1 hour. So we're finishing up answering all your questions. And if you have a question for us that we didn't get to, please make sure to drop it below in the comments. And if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe so that you never miss an episode. It's also such a great way for us to continue to grow the show and meet other listeners like yourselves.
Before we get started, let's start with this week's weekly obsession. What's yours?
So we've been in Colorado now for a couple weeks, and obviously the air's much drier here than it is in Miami, and both my little ones have some eczema. And so when we're here in the dry air, the eczema tends to flare up significantly. So I was actually at a local pharmacy, and they recommended this cream. It's by Avene. It's called Zeracalm, and it's specifically made for eczema. And it's not crazy expensive. It was $21. But let me tell you, I have seen a significant improvement in the kids' eczemas and the dry patch. And I know we've got a lot of mom or parent listeners. So if you have a little one that has eczema, this brand Avene, Avene, the Zeracalm, it is really hydrating, and it's been really helpful for my kids' eczema.
Amazing. I have been taking this Tally Health NAD support. Have you ever gotten an NAD IV?
I have, and I've also done the IM shot,
Yes.
But the IV takes hours to infuse. The IM shots.
It also made me feel terrible. Did you feel terrible?
So I didn't feel terrible after the IV infusion because it was like 3 hours long, and I think we went really slow. But almost instantly after the IM injection, the intramuscular injection, I had this very weird tightness in my chest and almost like this sensation that like I was short of breath. It was a very weird feeling for me. And I knew to expect it, so I wasn't alarmed, but it was still very unpleasant.
Yeah, well, I don't have 3 hours to be going to an IV clinic and hooked up, although admittedly I had my laptop and I was doing work. But I believe in the science behind NAD. I'm not sure in its clinical application, but I always say that I will be the guinea pig because I would never recommend something to someone else unless I had tried it and saw a good effect. So I've been taking this for maybe a month now, and I don't know if it's placebo effect, but I feel like I have more energy. It could be total, or the fact that I've been prioritizing my sleep as well, right? So more to come, but so far, I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I agree. I think us as scientists at a cellular level, the way NAD helps makes sense. I just don't necessarily know clinically if that really is the, what's giving us more energy, or if it's also that we've been a lot more mindful in terms of prioritizing our sleep, eating healthy. I think everything works synergistically together.
I mean, that's the problem with us, right? Like, I can't have a randomized, placebo-controlled randomized trial because there's not like one of me who doesn't take a handful of supplements every day, which I do.
And we take a bunch of me.
Yeah, I mean, my kids were like, "Mommy, why do you take so many pills? Are you sick or something?" And I was like, "No, they're all vitamins. It's not
You're like, no,
medication."
mommy's tired and she's trying to do whatever she can to not feel
Yeah,
tired.
yeah. Exactly. Okay, so we are going to go to our submitted questions in no particular order. The first one is someone asking for recommendations to young professionals looking to advance their career. This particular listener is a lawyer. What do you think?
I was actually surprised by how many professional driven questions we received. A lot of people are asking for advice on how to excel or advance in their career, are struggling with work-life balance, are thinking about a career pivot, and aren't sure what to do because they've been at the same job for 5 years, but feel unfulfilled and want to kind of try something new. So I'm surprised at how many people have turned to us for professional advice. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about our show is that we're going to share our own takes on things, but then we're also going to try to get experts in the industry that are going to provide better advice than maybe we may have. So I think this is like one of these episodes that maybe Susie Welch is going to be great for because she provides framework and decision-making help that Tiff and I may are not necessarily experts in. But I think just at least from a medical standpoint, I think that expressing your desire to advance to your, colleagues and your superiors is important because you have to set the tone for what you want in your life, right? If you don't necessarily let people know that you want that promotion or that you're striving for this advancement or this job trajectory, then nobody knows to keep you on their mind or on their radar for this job promotion, right? Like you have to be vocal about what you want in your life and what you want that job to be so that people kind of are aware that you want this job so that if the opening becomes available, you're given consideration. So I think putting yourself out there is the first thing that you can do, even though that can be very scary, right? Because I think we all fear rejection. We all don't want to be disappointed. So sometimes you don't make it verbal what you want, but I think putting yourself out there is the first step. And I always think that showing up and doing kind of those extra projects or volunteering for those extra assignments in the beginning puts you on people's radar.
Yeah, and I think that's really great advice. Because people can't promote you if they don't know that you were in the running for that position, right?
Correct. And a lot of time we keep it to ourselves because we're scared or we think there's no shot that I'm going to ever get that position. So you don't put yourself out there. You don't tell people that you want that job. And then they give it to somebody who maybe was less qualified, but that person made it known that they wanted the job.
Yes, exactly. I would ask this person to back up a little bit and say, like, why do you want to advance your career? Is it just for the sake of advancement? Is it because you want more control or flexibility over your schedule? Because sometimes, when you're at the bottom rung and you're trying to make partner in a law firm, like you don't really have much control. Like, your managing partner tells you you have a new case and you need to stay up until 2 a.m. And so you do. But as you gain advancement in your career and become more senior, you have more flexibility and say so in the cases that you take on. Or is it just for the sake of learning new skills and developing your area of expertise, becoming a key opinion leader in a particular area of law? I think it's important to tease out like why you want this career advancement because that may kind of guide your trajectory a little bit. I'll share a personal story, which was about, 7 years ago when I got promoted from assistant to associate professor. And I celebrated for a couple of days. We went out to a nice dinner and then it was like, okay, now I'm going to work on my promotion packet for professor. But the thing is, I looked at some of the professors in my department and what they were doing and how happy their lives were. And I was like, wait a second, like, I don't think I really want what they have. I think sometimes you think you want this advancement, but then you look at the people in the position that you're trying to ascend to, and it actually doesn't align with your values or what you want your future life to look like. For me, I didn't want to go to the hospital every day Monday through Friday and take call every other weekend or, all these things. Like as my children were becoming older, at this time they were like 4 or 5. As they were becoming older and they had more extracurricular activities and they were becoming more vocal about my absence. Whereas like when they were 2, they didn't really like care that I left. But when they were 4 or 5, it was like, Mommy, where are you going? Mommy, why aren't you coming to this? I kind of had a shift in my perspective that I didn't want to ascend to this level in my career. And I took a hit for that. I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, I think you absolutely have to do a little bit of self-reflection and soul searching when you're making big life decisions like taking a promotion or applying for a new job. And really, like you said, evaluate if it's in line with your values. Because yes, for some things, it sounds amazing to get this promotion and maybe it comes with a pay raise. Maybe it comes with more autonomy. You can make your own decisions. But there might be a flip side to that job promotion, right? That you haven't considered that may impact your life in a negative way. So I think anytime you have to make a big decision, whether it's professionally or personally, you have to take into consideration if that decision is going to be in line with your true values. And I think the only person that can answer that is you, like what is it that truly matters to you? Is it having the title of managing partner as a lawyer, or is it having more flexibility and being in control of your cases? Because maybe it's not taking the managing partner role. Maybe it's starting your own law firm so that you can have control over the cases you get. So I think you need to kind of do some introspection and figure out what is it that is the most important to you? Is it the money? Is it the title? Is it the power? Is it the independence? And then you can decide whether that promotion it meets those goals or meets those values.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully that was helpful instead of confusing this person even more. She's probably listening and like, oh, great. Now I have more work to do. We don't have simple, clear-cut answers because that's not how life is. We're not going to be like, follow your dreams, follow your heart. No, we're going to dish it to you for real.
But I think from this person, they're a young lawyer. They want to advance their career. So I think if that's the case, let's assume they want to stay at the same law firm and kind of move up. I think the most important thing is one, make it known that you want to move up, right? That you're interested in that new promotion or that you're interested in starting your own team. I think volunteering for maybe the harder cases, the bigger cases that people shy away from because they're scared or don't want to do the work. Stepping up into that role, taking on more responsibilities will definitely get the notice of some of the superiors. So I think taking initiative, making it known, those are all strong leadership characteristics that make people notice you and consider you when it comes time for that promotion.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so you guys know that both Tiffany and I love to travel, and I am so excited that we have a new sponsor, which is a private travel club, and it's called Endless Luxury. And this private club unlocks unpublished members-only deals on different hotels, resorts, and vacation rentals. You can save up to 40% on over 1 million different stays. And this is backed by 110% best price guarantee. Now, membership is normally $999, but we've gotten them to discount the membership rate by 50% just for our listeners. So if you use the code SCRUBS, you'll get access to this private travel club for just $450. That's over 50% off. Plus, our Scrubs fans can save now and you get a free 7-day trial. So you can join, check out the site, look at the different travel options. And if you're not totally satisfied, you can cancel within 7 days. So you get to try it risk-free. Go to endlesslluxury.com/premium and enter the word Scrubs in all caps to start traveling like a VIP without the VIP price tag. Don't miss it. It's a great opportunity. And again, you can save up to 50% off with our discount code and you can try it for free for 7 days.
Okay, moving on. What is the biggest lesson you have learned in the past 5 years?
Oh man,
oh, dear.
Jeez, that's a deep one. I need to think about this one.
I need to think too. I mean, this is going to sound trite, but when you start putting yourself out there and you get some form of resistance or negativity, like that's okay. I used to be so sensitive to rejection and failure that fear basically kept me from even raising my hand, because I'm like, oh, they're not going to pick me, or just the fear in and of itself prevented me from taking a lot of opportunities that I could have taken. And over the last 5 years, which is funny because that's when Housewives, for me started, I one day just decided that like, I don't care. You know, you always see these things on social media or whatever that's like, what other people think of you is none of your business. And I'm like, okay, except for when they're being mean to me, and it is my business, you know?
Yeah, putting it on social media.
Yeah. So, but I guess the lesson here is that if you are going to put yourself out there in any capacity, post on social media, have a business, go ahead and expect that not everyone is going to align with you. They don't have to, and you don't need them to in order to be successful. You know, we have a negativity bias. I talk about this in my book, Joy Prescriptions. We have a negativity bias because culturally and societally, if we were kicked out of the tribe, that meant a great deal of danger to us. But these days, you know, there's so much negativity coming at us that if you're going to allow that to keep you from doing things, you're really letting it hold you back in so many ways.
And it's so funny how you can have thousands of positive comments, thousands of positive interactions, and a handful of negative interactions. And that few negative comments or those few negative interactions, those are the ones that like really impact people, right? Like they focus on those. But to Tiffany's point, like with all sorts of growth comes some negative feedback, and you can't let that, you know, prevent you from taking that step. For me, it's never been so much a fear or a concern about the negative feedback. For me, I am a creature of comfort, right? Like I love security. I love knowing, what my day is going to look like. And sometimes the fear of unknown, you know, like that need for security keeps me from taking, an important professional step. Like I remember, right after I finished med school, I worked at, Jackson Memorial Hospital. It's a huge public hospital. I was taking level 1 trauma calls. I was doing OB call. I was working my ass off for the first couple years after residency and fellowship. And then there came this opportunity to start a new hospital. It was a brand new facility. No one had ever worked there. And I was so nervous to take this new role because it was the unfamiliar. And even though I was exhausted and I was like working myself to the ground, it was still what I knew. I was comfortable in that exhaustion. And I remember going back and forth with Anthony about the decision. And Anthony is very much about stepping outside of your comfort zone. He says that growth doesn't happen where you're comfortable. If you keep doing the same thing over and over, nothing's going to change. And if you want to succeed, you want to do something new, you need to step outside of your comfort zone. So he was really the one that pushed me to take this new job. And let me tell you, it was the best decision ever. I absolutely love where I work. I have the most amazing schedule. I work with the most amazing surgeons. My colleagues are fantastic. I am so happy at my job. And I would have never done it had it not been for his kind of motivational pep talk about stepping outside of your comfort zone. But it's so easy to stay stuck when you're comfortable or when you kind of already know the deal. But it's true, you don't grow if you keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off that story and say another lesson that I've learned over the past 5 years is to have good mentors. I didn't always have the great mentors growing up, especially not strong female mentors. And I was recently talking to Ed Milet, and he always says, if you want to know what the road is like ahead, ask the people coming back. And I was like, oh my God, that's so profound. You know what I mean? But most of the things that we're trying to do, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Like whatever business, whatever social media, you want to write a book, you want to start a podcast. There are people who have done it before, and you can tap them and ask them for a little bit of their wisdom, and ask for that mentorship. I think a lot of times, like, people don't want to seek mentorship or ask for it because they're kind of afraid of rejection or seeming like, they don't know what they're doing. But I'm telling you, like, a great mentor or sounding board, a partner, a spouse, a best friend will move you miles ahead of what you could have done on your own just because you have someone else to bounce ideas off of.
Yeah. And they may also save you from some, pitfalls or, difficulties in that area because they've already been through it. And so maybe you can avoid the heartbreak or the headache if you talk to someone who's already gone down that road. And that kind of leads me to our next question, which I think we've talked about a few times on the show, but in case you're a new listener, someone asked prior to our podcast if we were friends, and we were, and it was because I, without shame, reached out to Tiffany on social media. I DM'd her when I was considering starting the Real Housewives of Miami. And I reached out to Tiff and I asked her, what was her experience like? Did it have any impacts on her professionally? Because she's also an anesthesiologist. And Tiff, I have to say, you were so sweet and kind. You responded instantly. You sent me your cell phone number and you were like, girl, I will call you in a few because this is a long conversation. And I wasn't scared to reach out to you. You were a total stranger, but I needed the help. I knew I needed the advice. I had never been down the Housewives or reality TV road, and I wanted to talk to someone who had done that already. And so, to your point, not being afraid to ask for help or seek the advice of someone who's been through what you're going through is really helpful because, I mean, you gave me such good advice, and that was the start of our friendship.
I know. And that was in, oh my God, when was that? 2020? 2021? Yeah, it was like 5 years ago. And look, if she hadn't have done that, like slid into my DMs, we wouldn't have this podcast. You wouldn't have come to Lead Her Summit last year. And again this year. Like, it was the beginning of a beautiful friendship, but it never would have happened if you didn't reach out.
Yeah. So this is your advice, guys. Step out of your comfort zone, take the risk, apply for that job, seek a good mentor, slide into someone's DMs. Don't be afraid, because if you don't try, you won't ever succeed, right? You're just going to stay in the same situation that you're in. And obviously you're asking this question because you're not happy with the status quo. So you gotta just take a risk.
Yes. Okay. Moving on. Someone wants to know how we personally deal with burnout. Do you want to go first?
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer that you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you are running yourself aground with work, with family, with whatever, there will come a point where you're going to hit that wall and you're not going to be of any benefit to your job, to your children, to your family, to your partner, to your spouse. So as selfish as it may sound, I think finding something that brings you joy, that helps you recharge your batteries, and carving out some time for that is so important. So for me, exercise is where I recharge my battery, where I get in my endorphins out. I feel good about myself, and it's my time. And I am very unapologetic of my time. I will tell Anthony on a Saturday morning, I am going to go for a run. I'm going to go to the gym. You're in charge. And he knows that that's what's important to me. And so I think being a little selfish with your time does not make you a bad person. I think everybody needs time for themselves to refill their cups so that then they can pour into other things.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think as women in our middle age, it's really a really cruel way that life was constructed, because you are generally trying to build your career at the same time that you're building your family. And then, in your 40s, 50s is generally when the kids go off to college and you have an empty nest. But by then you've either made it or not made it in your career, right? And it's just the way life was designed. Don't be mad at me. I didn't do it. But it's hard in these years to give anything back to yourself because you're just doing stuff for other people all day. But if at the end of the day, you are exhausted and you start feeling resentful, that's like my trigger. when I feel myself being resentful, I'm like, oh, I need to pay attention. Like that's my trigger for burnout, because burnout, I feel like these days is almost overused. 5 years ago, I never really heard about burnout. And these days it's like all I ever hear about. And it's like, what is burnout even? I think it comes from some like misalignment of your values and what you're doing, and also just doing too much. You know, it's these moms that want these Pinterest perfect kitchens and whatever, and the toddlers are just like throwing yogurt against the wall, and you're like, how is this my life? You know what I mean? And then you got to go to work and deal with difficult colleagues and hard cases, and just it's a lot. So I will second your sentiment that you do have to invest in self-care. It's not selfish. It's really like recharging your batteries. Like think about your phone. I get nervous when my phone goes on red and it's that like last 20%. I'm like, does anyone have a charger? Does anyone have a charger? Like, you know, cause I'm like, what if it gets stuck? Yeah. So if you're in red, my dear friends, you must recharge your batteries, because a dead phone is good to no one. And if you keep going, you're going to be a dead phone, and you'll be so resentful. Your relationship may suffer with your partner and maybe your children, your friends. So, if you needed a permission slip, we're giving it to you. You may recharge your batteries.
And listen, I understand that it is not an easy decision to make to be selfish with your time, right? There are these societal pressures that tell you as a mom that you need to do it all, right? Like these Pinterest moms, these things you see on social media, that you should never miss a bedtime. You should be there for every single bath time. And I understand the stress and the pressure that women and moms specifically feel. But that's not realistic. And I think the sooner we change our mindset about that, the easier it's going to be for people to like take a beat for themselves, to step away from the chaos for a moment, to, you know, tap into a friend, tap into your, you know, a family member, into your partner, be like, hey, I need a break. Can you like watch this situation for me so that I can recharge? Because like Tiff said, when your phone's dead, you can't use it. And if you're run down, you're of no use to your children, to your partner, to your spouse, to your job. So I think it's really important to realize when you're running low. And I think resentment, anger, rage, those should all be little warning signs that you're running low, and take a beat for yourself. It does not make you a selfish person. I think you're actually doing everyone around you a good deed by making yourself better and recharging your battery.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, moving on. This is a fun question. What is your favorite vacation spot?
St. Bart's, hands down.
Okay, say why.
Okay, so I love going to Europe, but let's be honest, from the States, it's a really long flight. And it's expensive. It's really long, and you can't go to Europe for a weekend, right? Like it's just, I mean, you can, but it's not really feasible. I feel like if I'm going to make the schlep to Europe, I want to be there for at least 7 days. I want to make the most out of it. But St. Bart's feels like you're on the French Riviera, but like in the Caribbean. So it's not so difficult to get there. You've got beautiful beaches. I love me a good beach. You've got great restaurants. You know, Aunt and I love to go out to dinner. So you've got some great restaurants. If you want to like let loose, party, have a couple cocktails, they've got great nightlife, great beach clubs. Like there's just so much to do. You can also go on hikes. Like I just feel like it is a place that has a little bit of everything. There's amazing shopping, and it's not so far.
Yeah. Where do you normally stay?
So it depends. If it's just Anthony and I, and we want to stay in a hotel, nothing complicated. I love the Eden Rock, because I think it's centrally located. I think the St. Jean Beach area is really nice and flat. You can walk to a lot of the other restaurants and whatnot. Cheval Blanc is beautiful, but it is on the other side of the island. So, you kind of have to have a car to get to some of the restaurants. But we've even done St. Bart's with children. We did 2 families. We rented a villa. We had 3 kids under the age of 5. And let me tell you that the kids had an amazing time. Grayson, every time he hears we're going to St. Bart's, he's like, I want to go to St. Bart's. Like, even for children, it was amazing. Like they would go to the beach restaurants and get a daybed and make sandcastles and have lunch on the sand. Like it is honestly, to me, one of my favorite places on earth.
I have not been in over 10 years. Daniel and I
we
stayed at
should
Eden
go.
Rock like 10 years ago. Yeah, since I've had children, I have not been back to St. Bart. So I will put it back on the list. I have so many favorite places. I love traveling. If it were up to me, I would like quit work and just travel around the world for a year, take a sabbatical or something.
I agree. I wish I would have become like a travel blogger, right? Where that's your
I
job
know.
to go try hotels, write reviews,
Yes.
or even a food blogger.
Yes.
I would have
Okay,
loved
so
that
I
job.
have a slight detour right now, which is to hype up one of my speakers for the summit this year. Her name is Dr. Devin Gimbel. She runs a Facebook group and a program called Point Me to First Class. But 2 years ago, I did not do this like points hacking thing because it was a bunch of bros, like the Points Guy and and they have blogs and I'd kind of read them occasionally. And I know how to accumulate points because I know how to spend money. I'm very good at accumulating points, but I did not understand how people were flying on these like first class suites on like Singapore Airlines and, you know, the airplane suites, like not just a lay flat seat, which is lovely, but like a whole ass apartment in the sky. And I just didn't understand how they were doing it. But my friend Devin, who actually is a dermatologist who no longer practices dermatology because this business, which started as her side hustle, is now her main hustle.
I love this
She
for Devin.
basically teaches women physicians and other people how to maximize the accrual of points with just their everyday spending and then redeem those points for first class travel, usually internationally on these like really great airlines. So she's going to be a speaker at Lead Her Summit because I have been drinking her Kool-Aid. And I have to tell you, there's this thing called Q Suites on Qatar Airways. And Daniel and I are taking Q Suites from Dallas to Doha to the Maldives.
Ooh,
So
I love this for you and
since we're
Daniel.
talking about vacation, have you been to the Maldives?
I have not, because Anthony is a creature of habit, right? Like in the sense that he never wants to like be disappointed with like, oh, let's go to the Maldives and travel for 20 something hours and then get there and be like, wah, wah.
Yeah.
So once he finds a place like St. Bart's that he knows he loves, he's just like, let's go to St. Bart's. Like, we know that that place is great.
Yes.
So in his mind, we have the most gorgeous water in the Bahamas. The Exumas have some of the most beautiful beaches in the world. He's like, Nicole, why am I going to fly for 2 days across the world to like sit on a bungalow when I can just take a yacht to the Exumas or whatever, you know?
Yeah,
So for him, it's a no. So I'm gonna have to do a girls trip because I love to travel and I will go anywhere just to experience a new culture and a new place.
Yes. And apparently it's like sinking. So we got to go soon or something or it's going to disappear. That's what someone told me. I'm also always scouting for my next Lead Her retreat. Last year's was in Cabo. And now I'm scouting for like the next one. Right. And so who knows, maybe you can come on a girls trip to the Maldives. But currently my favorite place is Bora Bora. Have you been to Bora Bora?
No, girl.
No? Okay.
There's no traveling happening for more than 18 hours in our household.
No, it was like 30 hours or something crazy, but we actually broke it up because my sister-in-law lives in LA. And so we actually flew from Dallas to LA because the flight to Bora Bora actually leaves out of LA. So we spent a night or two in LA, went out to dinner, hung out with her. And then we flew from LAX to Papeete, which is like the main airport you land in. And then you have to take either a boat or a seaplane, I forgot, to the hotels. Oh, it was a boat that picks you up at the airport and takes you by boat to the hotel.
A lot of travel.
It's a lot of, it was in total, like from the time I left my home if we didn't do the layover at LAX, like 30 hours or something crazy. And then when you're there, you're super jet lagged because the time difference is so great that you can't accumulate or adjust. And then we were only there for like 4 or 5 nights. So right when I got adjusted to the jet lag, it was like time to come home. And I was like a zombie for the next couple of days. But it is so beautiful. We stayed, I think, one time at the Four Seasons and one time at the St. Regis. And it's that overwater bungalow because the environmental conditions are just right that you can have like a hotel room bungalow, you know, in the ocean. There's only, I feel like, a couple of places in the world that have that. I think it's like Maldives, Bora Bora, maybe a couple of island places, but it's not common. I mean, even when you go to beautiful places in the Caribbean and Hawaii, you still can't get like an overwater bungalow, but it was kind of freaky. Cause I can't swim. So I did not jump out of our bungalow, but Daniel
swim
did.
Tips like that all?
No, I can't swim.
Girl, we need to get some lessons.
My husband has tried so hard. Like, but I always joke that if he really wants to get rid of me, just like take me on a cruise and throw me overboard or any kind of boat, not like a huge cruise ship where there's people
I had
watching.
no idea.
I can't swim. I never learned. You know, I moved from China to the United States when I was like 5.5. I had never seen a swimming pool before. Like in China, we lived in an apartment. Like I had never seen a swimming pool before. And then I saw my first like indoor swimming pool when I was like 6 years old. And then I had a traumatic experience where a bunch of kids were being mean and pushed me into the pool and I couldn't swim and I almost drowned and the lifeguard had to like pop in and like fetch me out and I was just like mortified after that. I like wouldn't get in the water. So I don't swim, which is really funny because my best friend was like, you know, for a person who doesn't swim, you sure go on a lot of beachy vacations.
Yeah. I feel like you're in a bathing suit quite a bit.
Yes, the bathing suits don't usually get wet if you notice. They stay dry. And so does my hair. And I usually have a huge hat. So yes, Bora Bora is beautiful just because it is so used. Like Hawaii is beautiful, but I go there and like the reefs are dead and there's too many people and all this stuff. Like Bora Bora is like you don't hardly see any people. You see more fish than you see people in a day. And I just think it's like really great. But there's also not like that much to do. You know, like you stay in your bungalow, you eat, you drink, you nap, you read, you go on the sea-doo, you do some like canoeing or water sports, and like that's pretty much it. But as I get older, there's less that I want to do anyway. Like when I was young in my 20s and even in my 30s, I wanted to go to a city. I wanted to explore. I wanted to go to the museum. I wanted to take a tour. And now on my vacation, I'm like, I don't want to do anything.
Yeah, you
I
just want to
read a book
relax and unwind
and have someone bring my food to me and like not do shit.
Yeah. Is there somewhere that on your bucket list that you are dying to go visit that you haven't had the chance to visit yet?
Oh my God, so many places.
What's your top one? Like right now, if you had the time, the money, and everything, stars were aligned.
I've never been to Greece. I've never been to Iceland. Switzerland. I've never been to Africa. Like anywhere.
That is definitely my bucket list. I would love to do like an African safari, like go to Kenya, and see the crossing of the animals. We've actually talked about it, and I think it would be a beautiful trip to do with like our children. Right. Grayson's starting to get to the age where I think he would enjoy it. Obviously, Genevieve is too small. So I think maybe in the next 5 years, that'll kind of be like our bucket list family trip. Because I do think it's going to be such a beautiful and like special trip, but I want the kids to be a little bit older.
Yeah, I mean, even my kids are 10 and I still think they're too young just with the international travel. And sometimes there's airport delays and then they're decompensating. And then
you have to also remember to travel. You might need to start, anti-malaria pills. Sometimes there's special vaccines like the yellow fever vaccine and whatnot. So those are always things that I think of. I think as a doctor, I'm like, oh my gosh, if my kids were to get malaria over there, how horrible that would be. So the preparation for that trip, I think, does require them to be maybe a little bit older.
Yeah, we'll stick to St. Bart's for now.
In part size.
Yeah, with
I
the
actually
kids.
have like a PDF because so many people ask me for advice on St. Bart's.
Oh,
That I've put down like all restaurant recommendations, day club recommendations. So if you ever go back to remind
yes,
me to
please,
send that to
please
you.
send to me. Yes, we can make that the freebie for this episode. Dr. Nicole's
Nicole
St. Bart's
Bart's.
recommendations. Yeah, no extra charge.
Our next question is about fertility after 35. And I know, Tiff, you went through a lot to get the girls. I had delivered my Genevieve at 39. So we are both very familiar with fertility issues after the age of 35. Tiff, you want to go first? What are your thoughts?
I mean, from a medical standpoint, I will put on my doctor hat right now and say that your number and quality of eggs declines as you age because a baby girl is born with all the eggs she will ever have. Sadly, that is the truth of life. Sadly, that is why we do have a biological clock, and that when women are ascending their career, sometimes they have to think about, well, how does this impact my family planning? And men don't need to do that because they make sperm all the time. Sperm are free. Eggs are expensive. So for women who are approaching that quote unquote deadline, and I don't want to say it like that, but in the obstetrical world, if you are pregnant after the age of 35, they do refer to that as advanced maternal age, or sometimes you'll hear geriatric pregnancy, which I just don't like that term. I think it sounds crazy. There are increased risks to you and the fetus/baby when you get pregnant after 35. Like, that is a simple biological truth that we cannot argue. And so I think the conversation becomes, as people are approaching that deadline, should they freeze their eggs? If they don't have a viable partner right now and they do eventually want to have kids. I get asked all the time, actually, randomly, like, Dr. Moon, what do you think? I'm 30. I'm a resident. I don't have a boyfriend, but eventually I want to have children. Like, should I start looking into freezing my eggs? And the answer for me is yes. That I did not personally do that, because I, got married, in my late 20s, and we basically immediately started trying to have a family. But if I was in that situation and I was 30 and didn't have a partner, I would freeze my eggs for sure. What would you do?
I think 35, people always ask about that number because, like Tiffany said, that's when the American Academy of Obstetrics and Gynecology starts to deem women advanced maternal age, or like Tiffany said, a geriatric pregnancy. And as we age, the quality of our eggs tends to decline. So the risk of having congenital abnormalities or issues with pregnancy starts to increase as we age. Now, that's not to say that you can't naturally get pregnant at 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. But the chances and the ease of which that happens starts to decline as we get older. So like Tiffany said, I think if you are in your early 30s, approaching your middle 30s, and you are focused on your career, which is totally okay, you haven't met your partner that you want to have a family with, freezing your eggs at that point is almost like a security blanket, right? It preserves those eggs at that stage in your life so that if 2, 3, 4 years later you decide you want to have a family, you have those eggs kind of on hold. You may not even need them, right? You may freeze your eggs at 32, meet your partner at 35, try to conceive naturally, and you pregnant. But at least you have the option. I have a lot of friends that now are like 39, 40, 42, and just met the partner that they want to have a family with. And they're going through the IVF cycles, and they're maybe retrieving 1 or 2 eggs, because they are older. So I think if you have the opportunity and the means to do so at a younger age, I think it's a good idea. But I understand that it's also, expensive process to go through, not just financially, but emotionally and physically. What I did was we got pregnant with Grayson super easy. I was like early mid 30s when I got pregnant with Grayson, and that was very easy. With Genevieve, it definitely took a little bit longer. It wasn't like month one like happened with Grayson, but what I did with Genevieve that I found to be very helpful was I used what's called the Mira. MIRA. And basically it's this little like monitor. It's an ovulation monitor, that you buy, and you download the app on your phone, and you start tracking your cycle by essentially urinating on these sticks, and you put it into the little monitor, and it tells you when you're having your estrogen peak and all of your hormones, and it will estimate your ovulation to like the day. So you start doing it, and by month 3, it has enough data to tell you, you will ovulate tomorrow, have sex tonight. Like it is that specific. Because remember, when you do have sex, the semen can live inside your body for 3 days. So it's almost like you want to do it the night before you ovulate so that the swimmers are already kind of going through your system, because sometimes once you wait till you ovulate, then you're kind of behind the ball. But I found that app to be very helpful because it provided you with the data. And you're not just going in blind thinking that you're ovulating at this day, without really knowing. So, and it wasn't expensive. I want to say maybe it was like $150. I could be completely wrong. But I found it to be really helpful. You monitor at home, and then you just keep buying the little sticks.
Yeah. And you pee first thing in the morning. That's when it's most accurate.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I also had one. I've never heard of Mira. I think my machine was from Clear Blue, which makes pregnancy tests. But I did the exact same thing. And granted, I was doing this 10 years ago, right? Like my girls are 10. They're almost 11. So I was probably doing this like 12 years ago. But it really helped. My machine in particular gave me like 1, 2, or 3 bars. And so I could tell, over time that like, oh, the funny thing is I had polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is atypical because usually when we're taught that in medical school, we're taught that the women have hirsutism, which is like hairiness, obesity, insulin resistance, things like that. And I had none of those things. So I was like, really? Are you sure I have PCOS? When I first started my ovulation monitor and I peed on the stick every morning and then stuck it into the machine, it was reading 1 bar for like 60 days. And I told my OB or whatever, I was like, this shit's broken. It's not working. Like it says I didn't ovulate. And she's like, well, because of your PCOS, whatever. And our theory for the way the twins worked out is that I didn't ovulate the month before. And then the month that I got pregnant with the twins, like each ovary spit out an egg. And that's how I ended up with twins. So I don't know. But if you are trying to get pregnant after the age of 35, I would advocate that you work a little harder at it than just not trying and seeing
Correct.
what happens, because you are on a little bit more of a time crunch. So I would definitely do the ovulation monitor. I would go to your OB and have blood work and make sure that nothing is amiss that would, inhibit you being able to get pregnant, and go from there.
I'm going to share a little bit of a personal story from a friend, who was having a hard time conceiving. She started using the Mira app. And then every time she saw that she was ovulating, she would tell her partner, like, it would be like, I don't know, 3 p.m, and she'd do her thing. She'd figure out she was ovulating, and she'd call him at the office. She'd be like, can you come home right now? And like, she was being like weird about it, right? Because obviously she wanted to have a baby, but like, I would tell her, I was like, girl, can you be like a little bit more like stealthy with your delivery? Like, don't call your husband in the middle of the day, interrupt his work meeting and be like, we have to have sex right now. Like, that's awkward. And then it makes it kind of feel like a job for him. And it's like, it kind of removes the pleasure and the enjoyment of it. And she's like, so what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, I don't know. Put on lingerie. And when he walks in through the office, don't say you're ovulating. Just be like, oh my God, I couldn't stop thinking about you. I'm so happy to see you. I don't know. Like, don't make it weird, because it's as weird as it is for you to pee on a stick and it gets weird for the guys too. And I think sometimes we are so passionate about having a family that we put a lot of pressure on our partners too, right? To perform on this demand or on this schedule. And then the whole process becomes very transactional and not necessarily pleasurable for either one. So I think if you can manage to somehow keep things fun during the process, it makes for a better experience, I think,
a
for
more
both of them.
enjoyable experience.
Yeah, it got to the point that it was creating like conflict between their relationship because she just wanted to do it when it was time. And he was like, I am not a robot. Like, I don't work
Yes,
that
you
way.
are. And I need a deposit right now.
Right. So if you find yourself in this situation, maybe don't be so forthcoming about like, hey, today's the day, we got to do it. Maybe just get creative, you know, put something sexy on and like be innovative.
Yes. Okay. Custom is telling us that this episode is now over. He tells me when he needs to go out. He's
That's so funny.
Smart. He just comes and gets me no matter what I'm doing, like filming a podcast. And this is his, like, he was sleeping just now. And now he's like, oh, I just woke up and I would like to go.
He did that the last episode too. I love that for us.
He's like, he knows when it's time to wrap it up. You know, he's like our producer.
Yeah, I love that. So our producer says that this is the end of this episode. We love when you guys drop comments. We love when you guys ask us questions or give us topics for shows. So if you have any of those, please let us know. You can either DM Tiffany or I on social media. I'm at Dr. Nicole Martin on Instagram.
And I am at Tiffany Moon MD.
Or you can drop them below in the comments. And if you're not following along, please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.